Hey friends, something a little different since Zaki Zero took up my last few days. I looked through some earlier comments on my top 10 visual novels Steam recommendation video, and someone told me that they love visual novels, but they just don't have the time to sit down and devote like 30 hours to a visual novel nowadays. Which I totally understand. While visual novels are a type of game that are supposed to be picked up and played whenever, in practice it's actually kinda hard to stop when it's finally getting good, or to even get through the first couple of hours that are a little slow sometimes. The prospect of diving into a story that'll take at least 30 hours to complete can be a little scary. With that in mind, this video I decided to choose a couple of shorter visual novels, ones that can be completed in one evening or even just 2 to 3 hours. While these stories are short, they still have ample amounts of content and characters that I believe you'll still find engaging. Hopefully these visual novels will get you back into the VN reading spirit and look forward to maybe tackling the longer ones in the future. Or who knows, maybe you're just starting to get into visual novels and want to ease your way into this great genre. Either way, these are some of the shorter ones I've enjoyed in the past. They may not be perfect or even high budget, but they all offer something a little different and unique. Some quick disclaimers before I get started. All these visual novels listed took me around 2 to 4 hours to complete in their entirety. While they aren't the longest reading affairs, they should still all be wonderfully concise experiences. These VNs are not in order of best to worst, but instead all come recommended as long as the premise interests you. If there is a short visual novel that is not included here and you think deserves to be here, like say Doki Doki Literature Club or Sayo no Uta, it's probably because I haven't played it or decide not to talk about it for now. Regardless, please tell me down in the comments below so others like myself can go check it out. Finally, I'll have links to where you can download the visual novels, as many of them are free actually in this list, or where you can purchase them if they have a price, down in my description box below. I'll mention the price briefly during the list itself. With that out of the way, let's get started with Kikokugai the Cyber Slayer. First off, we begin with one of Nitro Plus's earliest works. It's a tale of revenge set in the unnamed cyberpunk future of Shanghai, where two forms of martial arts rule the land, those who practice external strengthening techniques, and those who practice internal chi strengthening. With the advent of cyber augmentation, those who practice internal chi have found themselves obsolete and nearly stamped out of existence, compared to those who can easily upgrade their body beyond human capabilities. Kong Tao Lo, an internal chi master and former assassin, returns to Shanghai a year after a betrayal that left him for dead. Discovering what happened to his sister, he swears vengeance and sets out to murder every single person responsible. Kikokugai can be summed up easily as a cyberpunk revenge film. You can think of it like those good old classic martial arts films where the main character goes around fighting plenty of foes, all with varying abilities, seeking out retribution from those who have wronged him. It's fun to see Kong Tao Lo engaging these crazy fights one after another. It's got the whole human potential against cyborgs who are giving up their humanity for more power. That said, it's also a fantastic introduction to Nitro Plus's tone of visual novels, where the stories are generally much darker in tone, involving themes of sacrifice, darkness of humanity, and where endings may not necessarily end up happy. There are two versions of the game, one being the original with an 18+ element, while Reichin Ringding Shan, I might be saying that incorrectly, is an all-ages remake with voice lines and better graphics and a load of other upgrades. A fine entry point as any into Nitro Plus's works. Sayo no Uta is also great, but this one's a tad bit more exciting in my opinion. This will be the only game with an 18+ version on this list. Next up we have True Remembrance. The next few are going to be ones that are completely free to download, and all are old nostalgia trips back to when I was first getting into visual novels. True Remembrance takes place in a history where a new disease has come, one that plunges people into a never-ending depression that eventually leads them into ending their lives. To combat this illness, people with the unique ability to move this disease called mnemoniциdes have started appearing. They do this by wiping the trauma and consequently the memory associated with it. However, this story isn't about this world, but rather about two people. A model mnemonicide called Black Iris, and his patient, a sweet, warm-hearted girl named La, who has one day showed up on his doorstep and is his new patient. This is their story and how their lives changed soon after their meeting. I had recently played this game just to remember sorry, bad pun, I know. But seriously, about the visual novel in general. After finishing it again, I can safely say that if you're looking for a short story that has a little bit more going on up there than other visual novels of similar length, this one's pretty solid. The world building and the themes of depression are dealt with throughout the game, and while they're touched upon, the focus remains solely centered on the two protagonists and the people they encounter during their stay together. The romance isn't really the goal, but rather finding more about these characters and what happened to them. While it's not without its faults, it's overall a solid package, and it's free, so go check it out. And remember, the links will all be down below. May Sky. Mizoguchi Haruki is a young adult who has just entered the salaryman workforce life and is entirely done with it by day one. Kamiake Minori, on the other hand, is a high schooler working as a world-weary young shrine maiden who has the attitude of someone 6 years older than her. Both are discontent with their lives, trying to fit in but failing. And when these two people finally meet together, well, honestly, they bicker a lot, they laugh, but they mostly just pass the time day after day. Okay, let me be the first to point out that yes, the art style isn't exactly stellar. What Mei Sky does excel in, however, is telling a story about two individuals in a way that differs from the usual. It's not like a straight-up school romance. Their chemistry is fun to see where they bicker like two old friends hanging out, even though they come from two entirely different backgrounds. I put Mei Sky on this list because I believe it's a great example of how important the translator of a visual novel is. The dialogue for the only two characters in this game is written in a way where you can really feel the character's personality through them, even though there aren't any voices in the game. That said, if I had to guess, the translator has taken quite a few creative liberties in translating this text. I don't doubt the fact that the original characters have this chemistry between them, but the lines here probably have a lot of added quips, jabs, and definitely jokes. And for me, that's perfectly fine. I think the translation was still a fun read and quite entertaining. Although I will say, whoever did the TL work overused capitals for the dialogue way too much, but I can get past that. Anyways, talking about translations in detail will be a topic for a visual novel rambling another day. Suffice to say, Mei Sky is an overall fun read, a slice of life that isn't some implausible school romance, but a sneak peek into a chance encounter between two individuals like any other. Music is also super chill and goes really well with the vibe of the story. Like, are you listening to this tune going on in the background right now? I think it's pretty good. Next up is Narcissu 1 and 2. In a hospital like any other, on the 7th floor, there lies a ward where those who are terminally ill are left to waste away. In this dreary place, two young inhabitants meet, one newly admitted nameless man, and the other, Setsumi Sakura, a relatively long-time resident. After learning of Setsumi's desire to not perish in this hospital, or back in the home where she lived, they both decide to steal away and set out to enjoy life with the time they have left, no matter how little it is. Narcissu 2 is all about Setsumi Haruka and the life she had before meeting this young man. Honestly, I feel like this one is known by everybody already, but it is free, so really why not check it out if you haven't already. The Narcissu series is all about the concept of terminal illness and life and death. If your time is running out, what would you do? They are great examples of utsuges, games where you're meant to be sad and meant to be depressed by the end of it. Unlike nakiges where there are indeed a lot of feels, but with a happy ending waiting at the end. Utsuges, on the other hand, the ending is usually predetermined to be one that ends in tragedy, and it's all about the journey leading up to that point. I don't know about the many sequels and side stories since I haven't bothered reading any of them, but the original two already tell a complete tale regarding these individuals. If you want a story that might make you tear up a little, check it out. Don't take it personally, babe, it just ain't your story. This story takes place in the year 2027, which is 8 years from now, where the world has pretty much stayed the same for the most part. You play the role of the new, young, hip, and ready to be the best private high school literary teacher there ever was, called John Rook. It's a normal school with a class comprised of 7 students, with one small caveat. The school has granted you access to all of your students' private social network accounts, in the hopes that it would curb cyberbullying, and that if the students are found out, it would be catastrophic for the school. When you know about all the underlying problems these students face, the problems they have hidden underneath that smiling face they put on for school, what are you gonna do about it? While I would consider this to be one of the weaker entries on my list, it's still an interesting visual novel that's a decent social commentary on the topic of online privacy, dangers of social networking, and general teenager coming of age stuff. As the title joyfully points it out, it isn't a story that's necessarily for everyone, but it might interest some people. I will say it does have 1 or 2 decent moments, and it also has several problems, like I think the dialogue is pretty cringy at times. Actually, that might be putting it lightly. It can be downright painful to read. They're supposed to be high school students, I get it, but wow, it's a little much sometimes. If you can get past that though, and if you're looking for a normal modern school story with some social commentary on the side, this one might be up your alley. Planetarian, Reverie of a Little Planet. I know I put this on my previous list already, and this will be the only repeat on this list, but I couldn't talk about short visual novels without recommending this one again. Quickly though, Planetarian is about a junker in a post-apocalyptic world. Upon reaching an astrology exhibit, he is greeted by a female robot who seems entirely oblivious to the broken down state of the world, or even the broken down state of her exhibit. What is initially going to be a quick dive for resources turns into an extended stay as the junker attempts to revive the observatory for one last show. If you have never played a Key Studio game before like Clannad, Little Busters, Rewrite, or Angel Beats, Planetarian is an excellent way to get a feel for Key's particular brand of storytelling. Even if you have played one of their products before, Planetarian is still a solid evening. This is one of Key Studios' earlier visual novels, and if you're familiar with any of them, you'll know what you're in for. Tons of feels, heartwarming moments, and a great deal of crying somewhere along the path. Now, imagine that condensed into a short 3-hour experience, and you have Planetarian. The best way I can describe it is, it's a little bit of normal in an otherwise abnormal world. It's definitely not perfect. I'd say the robot Yumemi takes a little bit of time to cross from being kind of annoying to becoming endearing, but when it works, she pulls it off quite well. Pick it up on Steam when you can. If $10 seems a little much, it'll definitely go back on sale come next Steam sale that happens. Hatoful Boyfriend. Hey, it's that bird pigeon dating game that everyone made fun of back in the day. I know, but hear me out after I give the description. Hatoful Boyfriend is simply an otome game about transferring to a new unfamiliar school, full of unfamiliar classmates. Who knows what wacky antics and other dumb things the main character will get into during this new school year. The only caveat being that every single character in the game, except for you for whatever reason, is a bird of some sort. Now, the reason I'm recommending this one is not because it's just a funny concept. Sure, it's what makes it unique, but there's a little bit more to it. Underneath what is an absolutely stupid concept lies a visual novel about violence, racism, and distrust. Maybe. It's a setting that is more scary than strange once you peel back a few of the layers. I think the first time you go back home is more revealing than anything of what I'm talking about. It might just seem like another part of this dumb setting, but if you think about it a little. Also, it's a fair warning, but any visual novel that calls itself a heartwarming love story is probably messing with you in some fashion. All that said, yes, it's a visual novel about birds, but I mean, like, no one even acts like a bird anyways, aside from like 1 or 2 scenes where like seeds are involved. And it does get really stupid at times. If you can't stand the fact that they're all birds, you can turn on their human art for the first time you see them. That might help you pretend that they're actually all really Hawkeyes in your head. A free hint for those checking it out, there is a true ending to the game that involves getting every other ending. And we reached the last one on the list, Analog, A Hate Story, and Hate Plus. I recommend both just because Hate Plus is pretty much a direct sequel with an upgrade to the UI. That said, you're meant to play Analog first, which is obvious to the point where you are meant to import your save from Analog, A Hate Story to continue in A Hate Plus. With that in mind, I'll be focusing on the first game for this recommendation. Analog, A Hate Story places you in the shoes of yet another unnamed character, this time a space flyer, one who is sent on a mission to retrieve the information from a rundown ship that has been inactive for centuries. This ship, the Mungonghwa, which I'm definitely butchering because I don't speak Korean, is encrypted with a password. Which, off topic, but what kind of data hacker can't even brute force a simple password? Anyways, in order to get access to the files, you have to interact with the ship's AI and enlist their help in finding the password, reading through the logs and past messages between the former inhabitants. Perhaps you may even find out what happened to the ship all those years ago and how it came to be the abandoned wreck it is now. Or you know, don't. It's up to you, really. Made by the same makers as the high school social commentary one, this one is a big improvement on the formula they were going for. It also helps that Analog, A Hate Story has a much more interesting premise than, say, a high school, but that might just come from my bias. The core of the game is spent reading through old messages sent between the former inhabitants, trying to piece together more information about this mysterious, pale bride. There's a huge mystery at work, one that obviously leads to the ship becoming a wreckage, but the only question is, what happened? By talking with the AIs and interacting with them with a series of yes and no questions and the messages you come across, they will give you their input on what happened and give you access to more messages based on the mail that you showed them. They also got a pretty cool console command input when you work with the override system, which seems like set dressing until it becomes much more important later in the game. But again, that's all for you to find out when you play it yourself. While it does have some of the same problems as the previous work, where the dialogue at times can seem a little meh, and don't quote me on this, but I feel like my choices don't really matter in the game aside from 1 or 2 key moments, I still enjoyed going through it. I think the topics of traditional marriage and transhumanism were pretty interesting in the story. If you decide to play the sequel afterwards, you can import your old save file, which lets you continue with the ending you got, whether you went with one of the AI, the other one, or... And that's that. These are 8 short visual novels that all should be beatable in a single evening. The same length that might take you to read maybe 1 good book even, or shorter than that perhaps. I hope at least one of these visual novels sounded interesting to you, and you plan on checking one of them out during your next free weekend. Half of them are free, while the other half are mostly on Steam. Regardless, I will have links to all of them if you are interested in checking them out down below my description box. Kikokugai, the cyber celeb, remains an old favorite of mine personally, and I think Planetarian is great if you just want a taste of what Key Studios products are generally like. If you want me to do a visual novel primer, basically a more in-depth video on any of these visual novels in particular, throw me a comment and I might put that on my to-do list. If you would like to see another recommendation list of visual novels, give me some suggestions on what kind of go I should have this time. You know, maybe it's like only fantasy visual novels, mysteries, slice of life, comedy, thriller, isekai, denpa, high school. Wait, never mind. Pretend I didn't say that last one, but you get my point. As always, the like button is down below, and you know, if you like this kind of content and want to support me making more of it, the subscription is there below, so click that and the bell icon if you enjoyed. Finally, my Twitter handle will appear on screen in a hot second, where I post stuff related to the channel and random things that interest me or I'm playing at the time. Again, thanks for watching and supporting this channel in any way. We hit 100 subs recently, so thank you to everyone, and here's to hoping for many more. Here are some links to my previous videos, like my main visual novel introduction series, and other stuff I've done. With that, I'll see you next time.